Welcome to Spectrum News at 4, coming to you live from Oyo, the Akwa Ibom state capital. My name is Ofonono Joseph. Let's take a look at the top stories. President Tinubu presides over police council meeting to confirm Disu as IG. Federal government begins direct remittance of oil revenues to FAC. In other stories, China calls for ceasefire diplomacy to end Middle East conflict. Stay tuned for details of these stories and more in a moment. Thank you for joining us on the news at this hour. We begin the news at 4 from the national scene, where President Bola Tinubu has directed the Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission to guide the implementation of the federal government's National Gas Infrastructure Command Center strictly under a public-private partnership framework with zero public funding and no contingent liability to government. The Director General of the Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission, Dr. Jobson Ewalefo, disclosed this at the inaugural meeting of the Project Steering Committee for the NGCC, stressing that the Commission would ensure strict adherence to the terms of the presidential approval and lay down public-private partnership procedures. This was contained in a statement issued today by the head of media and publicity, Ifeanyi Nwoko, who noted that the NGCC, designed as a strategic national platform for real-time monitoring and coordination of Nigeria's gas infrastructure, must be fully funded by the private proponent without recourse to public funds or sovereign guarantees. Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu is currently presiding over a meeting of the Nigeria Police Council to formally consider the appointment of Olatunji Disu as Substantive Inspector General of Police. Reports say today's gathering began at about 2:15 p.m. when Tinubu arrived at the Council Chamber of the State House, Abuja. The meeting is in compliance with the provisions of the Police Act 2020, which requires the Police Council to consider the appointment before the President transmits the nominee's name to the Senate for confirmation. Recall that in a statement announcing the resignation of former RGP Kayode Egbetokun last Tuesday, the Presidency had indicated that the Council would be convened shortly. Away from that, the federal government has commenced the implementation of Executive Order 9 of 2026, which mandates the direct remittance of oil revenues to the Federation Account Allocation Committee. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, disclosed this in a statement issued today, detailing key resolutions reached at the meeting. This followed the directive of President Bola Tinubu on the remittance to FAC and the inaugural meeting of the Implementation Committee for the Executive Order. Edun said the committee reaffirmed the President's directive that revenues accruing to the Federation from petroleum operations must be managed in line with constitutional provisions and in any way that safeguards funds meant for the three tiers of government. On electoral matters, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Joash Amokbitong, has assured Nigerians that electronic transmission of election results will not be a challenge in the 2027 general election. The INEC chairman stressed that necessary measures have been put in place to ensure credible polls in 2027. Amukbitong spoke during a citizens' town hall meeting organized by Civil Society Network on election integrity in Abuja. Addressing concerns over result transmission, he said the Commission has the capacity to transmit results electronically and dismissed fears of network-related problems. He further reassured Nigerians that technical hitches experienced in previous elections, particularly the 2023 general election, have been resolved. Meanwhile, the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) will align its political party guidelines and regulations with the recently passed Electoral Act 2026 and what it calls emerging realities. In a statement by the Chief Press Secretary to the INEC Chairman, Adedayo Oketola, the exercise represents a critical phase in the Commission's ongoing reform aimed at strengthening political party oversight, improving compliance culture, reducing pre-election disputes, and enhancing public confidence in Nigeria's democratic process. The statement noted that technical workshop on the revision of the INEC regulations and guidelines for political parties is being organized and will bring together national commissioners and directors across operational departments, legal experts, election administrators, and institutional stakeholders to undertake a detailed clause-by-clause review of the existing framework, which was published in 2022. According to the statement, the recently enacted Electoral Act 2026 introduces significant legal and operational changes affecting political party administration, candidate nomination processes, compliance obligations, dispute resolution mechanisms, and the Commission's regulatory mandate. In another development, the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board (JAMB) has announced the commencement of the 2026 Direct Entry DE registration. In a statement posted on its official X accounts today, the board said the sale of application documents began on Monday, March 2, 2026, and will end on Saturday, April 25, 2026. JAMB advised prospective direct entry applicants that the registration service can only be accessed at its offices nationwide. In a separate development, Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State has congratulated the General Overseer of the Redeemed Christian Church of God (RCCG), Enoch Adejare Adeboye, on the occasion of his 84th birthday. Sanwo-Olu, in a statement by his special advisor on media and publicity, Boyega Akosili, described the revered cleric who clocked 84 today as a respected global preacher. The governor further described the renowned cleric as an epitome of honesty, dedication, and selfless service, adding that as the second national president of the Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria, he had raised millions of committed followers of Jesus Christ within the RCCG and beyond. Moving now to Africa. The campaign for next month's presidential election in Congo, Brazzaville has begun, with 82-year-old President Denis Sassou Nguesso seemingly assured of extending his decades in power. The career military officer first led Congo under the one-party system from 1979 to 1992, before losing the country's first multi-party elections to former Prime Minister Pascal Lizomba. He overthrew Lizomba in a civil war to return to power in 1997. Recall that earlier this month, Nguesso announced he would be seeking a new 5-year term, which, according to the Constitution, would be his last. The campaigns will end on March 13, with the first round of voting on March 15. On the foreign scene, China today called for a ceasefire and diplomatic talks to end the conflict in the Middle East as it stretched into a third day. Israel and the United States have been conducting strikes on Iran and Lebanon, with the conflict extending to regional neighbors. Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Mao Ning told a news conference that the most urgent task is an immediate cessation of military operations and preventing a spread and spillover of conflict, urging a resolution through dialogue and negotiation. She also added that one Chinese citizen was killed as a result of the conflict in Tehran, while Israel and the United States have been carrying out strikes in an operation that killed the Islamic Republic Supreme Leader, Mao added that the Foreign Ministry has instructed the Chinese embassy in Iran to provide assistance to the individual involved and the family without giving further details. Still on the foreign scene, Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon have exchanged strikes as the Iran conflict widens. The Lebanese Health Ministry says Israeli attacks in Beirut and southern Lebanon have killed at least 31 people, with 149 injured. Reports say that apparent Iranian strikes around the region continue with explosions reported in Bahrain and Dubai. Meanwhile, Kuwait's defense ministry has said that as Iran pressed on with the third day of strikes in the Gulf, several American warplanes crashed in Kuwait today. But their crews survived. The statement added that authorities immediately initiated search and rescue operations, evacuating the crews and transporting them to a hospital for medical evaluation and treatment. He noted that their condition is stable. Still to come in the news, Iran threatens to withdraw from 2026 World Cup after U.S. strikes. Stay tuned for details of these stories and more after this short break. Welcome back and many thanks for sticking around. Now let's conclude on the rest of our news stories. On our business news, the federal government has signed a $1.3 billion Foreign Direct Investment Memorandum of Understanding (MOU) with the Africa Finance Corporation (AFC) to jointly finance 3 projects in the country's mining sector. The agreement, tagged the Alumina project, will be executed through the Solid Minerals Development Fund (SMDF) as both a comprehensive geoscience mapping initiative and an investment vehicle. In a statement issued in Abuja, the Special Assistant on Media to the Ministry of Solid Minerals, Segun Tomori, said the MOU marked the culmination of discussions between AFC and SMDF on co-funding arrangements. Speaking at the signing ceremony, the Minister of Solid Minerals Development, Dr. Dele Alake, described the initiative as a landmark transaction capable of repositioning the mining industry and raising its contribution to the nation's gross domestic product. We move now to health, where the National Agency for the Control of AIDS has announced that Nigeria will take delivery of lenacapavir, a groundbreaking HIV prevention drug that has shown 100% effectiveness in preventing HIV infection in clinical trials. A short statement released by the head of public relations, NACA, Toyin Aderi-Ribe, today said the agency has secured regulatory approval from the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control. Lenacapavir is an injectable treatment administered twice a year, making it a more convenient alternative to daily oral prevention drugs. The drug is expected to be available in Nigeria and 119 other low and middle income countries at an affordable price of $40 per person annually, thanks to voluntary licensing agreements with generic manufacturers. Still talking health, the Chief Judge of Ogun State, Justice Moshomola Dikpeolu, has called for stronger collaboration among stakeholders, including the police, lawmakers, judges, relevant government agencies, and non-profit organizations to effectively address sexual violence in the country. Dikpeolu also advocated the adoption of technology, such as the use of video link facilities in sexual violence cases, to allow witnesses, particularly children or traumatized survivors, to testify from separate rooms, thereby reducing the trauma of confronting the accused in open court. She said the judiciary occupies a pivotal and unassailable position in the fight against sexual violence and must remain committed to ensuring that courts become fortresses for survivors, while offenders are adequately punished to serve as a deterrent to others. The Chief Judge, who was represented by Justice Funke Odumbanjo, made the call in Abeokuta at a stakeholders gathering themed "Strengthening Laws, Policies and Institutional Coordination to Improve Justice Delivery in Sexual Violence Cases." In the world of sports, Arsenal have re-established a 5-point lead at the top of the Premier League after they edged out Chelsea 2-1 yesterday. Mikel Arteta's men took the lead against Chelsea after William Saliba's header went in off Mamadou Sarr. But the Blues were level before the break thanks to Piero Hincapié's own goal. Jurrien Timber headed in Arsenal's winner, taking them up to 64 points with 9 fixtures left. Still talking sports, the Iran Football Federation has reportedly threatened to withdraw from the upcoming FIFA World Cup 2026. The warning comes as tensions rise in West Asia due to the ongoing political conflict involving the United States, Iran, and Israel. Notably, Iran has already qualified for the FIFA World Cup 2026, which will be hosted jointly by the United States, Mexico, and Canada. The situation has now raised fresh doubts over Iran's participation in the global football event after the political turmoil in the country. Meanwhile, Iran is scheduled to play all three of their group stage matches on American soil. Their fixtures include games against New Zealand in Los Angeles on June 15, Belgium on June 21 in the same city, and Egypt in Seattle on June 26. On our entertainment news, Nigerian streamer and skit maker Icrc has recounted how his father, a policeman, was gruesomely murdered by armed robbers in military camouflage during a robbery incident many years ago in Ogun State. The skit maker recalled that his father had closed from duty but decided to follow the police van to the nearest bus stop to their home. However, on their way, they ran into an ongoing robbery operation on the highway, and unknown to them that the men in military camouflage were robbers. They alighted from the vehicle to know what was causing gridlock, but robbers opened fire on them upon spotting their police uniform. Icrc said his father's murder is more traumatizing because he saw his lifeless body on television, and that the clip is still available on YouTube. And that's all we have for you at this time. You have been watching Spectrum News at 4. Kindly follow us on all our social media handles and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. My name is Ofonono Joseph. Have a blessed new month of March. Good afternoon.